Hello and welcome. This is Sunday Story. I'm Jo Nelson, a writing coach. And I spoke to you last week about my favorite F word, focus, F-O-C-U-S. And I have a new F word for this week, fear. It's very much a part of writing and something I'd like to talk about. I had an interesting telephone conversation with a dear friend of mine. And I said just kind of jokingly, so how's your book coming? Knowing, that she wasn't totally serious about it. She was kind of toying with the idea. But my friend got serious and kind of paused and said, well, she said, I think about standing on a stage, holding my book in my hand, maybe an author picture on the screen behind me on the stage. And then she just choked up. And she started to cry. And I thought, my gosh, what a demonstration of the importance that we feel about letting ourselves be seen and known, and how much fear surrounds it. It's so unfortunate that writing has somehow become surrounded with more mystery than learning anything else. We never think when we learn to play tennis that we're going to go to Wimbledon, for goodness sake. But somehow people are afraid to even touch writing because they feel they have to become a bestseller, or they compare themselves with Nobel Prize winners. And I think that's just tragic, because each of us, each of you has something to say. You cannot live and have speech and not have something to say that is uniquely yours. And I wonder if you think about what it takes to make a book. My friend said she was worried that she didn't have anything important to say. And then she thought, well, I have enough to say. And finally, she thought it would be expensive. So I'd like to approach the first of those, kind of what makes a book. And I was inspired by the latest bestseller, New York Times bestseller, Where the Crawdad Sings, written by a 72-year-old woman. And her impetus for the book was a phrase that her mother used. She used to tell her that if she went into the woods deep enough by herself, that she would hear the crawdads sing. Now it turns out crawdads don't sing, and I'm sure her mother just wanted some free time to herself. But nevertheless, it was the impetus for an entire book. Something she could coalesce her ideas around. And so this week I'd like just for you to think for a moment, what phrase do people often say to you, or do you hold in your memory something that someone said, something that seems kind of ringing every once in a while it comes up? Just write that down now. Take a moment. And then think, if I were to write a book, it would be about, and fill in the blank. If I wrote a book, it would be about crawdads that don't sing. And finally, I would say these three things you could talk about, three things that you could talk about on that subject, and jot that down. If you don't do it while I'm yakking at you, do it after. Just remember, if I were to write a book, it would be about. And then I could talk about these three things. And maybe what the title would be. Just go for gold. Because all things are born of just that idea. So get rid of this F word, fear, the feeling that you don't have anything to say, and just focus. And I think you'd be amazed at what comes up. My girlfriend, by the way, as we were chatting, not even concentrating on it, came up with her title, just from words we were flinging around and just chatting with each other. She wasn't pushing to find it. She wasn't trying hard. Just let it float in, as I'm sure this woman did about her mother. Like, I remember what my mom told me. And now she is Where the Crawdads Sing, with a bestseller, and she's touring the world and normally lives all alone in the marshlands. So I just want you to think about that, the simple impetus that can come if you let it come in. And I'd like to end with a quote of my own. It's about the subject of writing a book and if you should or why you should. I wrote this when I was working at the Huntington Library, where there are somewhere between 6 and 9 million books on the shelves. And I looked around and I thought, oh, do we really need another book? And then the end of the poem reads, we all leave trails, and lest on some weak morning you fail to see your worth, think bravely on the words of others, no different than ourselves, and dare to leave some part of you, your heart, upon a page. So I look forward to receiving in an email what you all are going to write, if you write a book. Cheerio and see you next week. Over and out.